As part of the Covenant of Mayors, cities and towns are taking climate and energy action to ensure a better future for their citizens. In Europe, over 10,000 cities have already joined the movement. For years already, cities have been turning climate and environmental challenges into opportunities. Time has come to make it the overarching priority.
We mayors from all over Europe step up our climate ambitions.
We commit to delivering action at the pace that science dictates.
In a joint effort to keep global temperature rise below 1.5 degrees.
Our clear political decision is that we will live in a decarbonized and resilient city till 2050.
With access to affordable, secure and sustainable energy.
As signatories of mayors in Europe, we commit to taking everyone on this journey.
We will make sure that our policies will leave no one and no place behind.
The transition to a climate-neutral Europe will have impacts in all areas of our societies.
As local leaders, we must keep a watchful eye on those impacts.
We can only envisage a transition that is fair, inclusive
and respectful of all citizens and of our planet's resource.
We mayors and local leaders can take steps today to ensure the well-being of all citizens in climate-neutral cities. We encourage our peers, wherever they are, to join the Covenant of Mayors movement. Together, we will work to turn this vision into reality.
Good morning. You are very welcome to this 2021 Covenant of Mayors Europe ceremony. I'm delighted to join you this morning, many people connecting from around Europe for a morning of discussion, inspiration, ambition and conversations that we hope will inspire you for the work ahead. Now, as you just heard, since 2008, more than 10,000 local governments and mayors have been acting as part of the Covenant of Mayors with the aim to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions, to deliver and adapt to climate change and to secure access to affordable energy with the aim of making life better for all the citizens. This year, in April 2021, there was a renewed call for this covenant, renewed ambition, and it's launched this new covenant that we're celebrating today. The aim is towards a fairer and more climate neutral Europe. So under this new ambition, the targets are to reach climate neutrality by 2050, to increase emission reduction targets, implement adaptation to climate change measures, and to alleviate energy poverty through a just transition. And they also commit to engage with their citizens. So today we're going to be looking at engaging with that 2050 ambition and also look at the achievements so far of the Covenant community. Now, we're breaking this down into 4 blocks today because these are the 4 key points of that renewed covenant, and that's to commit, to engage, to act, and of course, to network. So commit to setting mid and long-term targets to achieve climate neutrality. Engage citizens, businesses and other stakeholders, as well as government at all levels across Europe to help with this implementation of this big transformation. And act to get on track and accelerate the necessary ambition. And of course, even though we are holding this event remotely today online, there will be, of course, the opportunity to network a bit later on. And I will tell you more about that. Today, we will have people speaking different languages. You can choose the language you would like to listen in. We have interpretation in English, French, Italian, and Spanish. Simply choose the globe icon at the top of the screen and select the language you want to hear. Now, traditionally, this event has been held in the European Parliament, and we're very grateful to those hosts. Unfortunately, this year, we are doing it remotely to be COVID safe, but nonetheless, I am very pleased to hand over the floor to open this morning's ceremony, the President of the European Parliament, David Sassoli.
Grazie Jennifer, signore e signori. Il Parlamento europeo ospita da oltre 10 anni la cerimonia del patto dei sindaci per il clima, l'energia, accogliendo a Bruxelles sindaci e leader di tutta Europa. L'anno scorso purtroppo questo evento non abbiamo potuto mantenerlo a causa della pandemia, ma oggi sono lieto di poterci incontrare di nuovo. Abbiamo davanti agli occhi tutti, in tutti i paesi dell'Unione Europea, i segnali sempre più visibili e drammatici dei cambiamenti climatici. Ed è giunto il momento di agire. Stiamo lavorando su atti legislativi in questo momento molto concreti, che per dare attuazione al Green Deal, a questa scommessa sul futuro dell'Europa e soprattutto per le giovani generazioni. Questo evento non potrebbe essere più appropriato e svolgersi nel momento più giusto. Permettetemi innanzitutto di congratularmi per il successo del patto dei sindaci. Le città firmatarie sono più di 10.000 e rappresentano oltre 325 milioni di abitanti di 53 paesi. Sono cifre impressionanti e da questa energia, da questa grande energia, può svilupparsi un sostegno a politiche europee audaci. In fondo, clima, immigrazione, lotta alla povertà. Beh, su tutto questo le città possono, dove i governi sono timidi e incerti. Basterebbe che ogni città adottasse 10 famiglie di rifugiati perché l'emergenza sia più contenibile, più gestibile e diventi una risorsa per l'Unione Europea in un momento di denatalità fortissima. Come sapete, condividiamo obiettivi simili: accelerare la decarbonizzazione dei territori, rafforzare la capacità di adattamento agli impatti inevitabili dei cambiamenti climatici, consentire ai cittadini di accedere a un'energia sicura, sostenibile, a prezzi abbordabili. La povertà energetica è un problema per tutti gli europei, in tutti gli stati, e alla vigilia dell'inverno stiamo assistendo a un aumento dei prezzi dell'energia che preoccupano i nostri cittadini, le nostre imprese. Come per il Covid-19 dobbiamo unire tutti gli sforzi e fornire una risposta europea coordinata. La lezione del Covid non mettiamola in un cassetto, perché quella esperienza ci dice tante cose su come noi abbiamo la possibilità di affrontare le sfide del futuro. Dobbiamo unire gli sforzi e la nostra esposizione alla volatilità dei prezzi globali del gas sottolinea l'importanza del nostro piano per costruire un forte settore domestico delle energie rinnovabili. Dobbiamo agire sull'efficienza energetica, che può davvero rappresentare una svolta. Le città gestiscono ampi portafogli di edifici, scuole, biblioteche, unità abitative, strutture sanitarie, università. La transizione energetica rappresenta un'opportunità per migliorare l'accesso ad alloggi di migliore qualità. Il Parlamento europeo è determinato a lavorare per arrivare al massimo entro il 2050 a una società a impatto climatico zero ed è pienamente impegnato a trasformare l'Unione in una società più sana, sostenibile, giusta, che sia naturalmente prospera per tutti. La transizione ecologica coinvolgerà tutte le politiche dell'Unione e inciderà in vari modi su tutte le regioni dell'Unione Europea. Pertanto solo un approccio inclusivo all'attuazione del Green Deal consentirà di realizzare le nostre ambizioni ed è per questo motivo che il Parlamento europeo è favorevole a una cooperazione rafforzata con le città e le regioni europee. È fondamentale che le istituzioni dell'Unione, i deputati al Parlamento europeo, i governi nazionali e i politici locali uniscano le loro forze, come abbiamo fatto nel periodo più duro della pandemia, per garantire che la transizione energetica e climatica non lasci indietro nessuno e migliori la qualità della vita di tutti i cittadini europei, creando nuove opportunità e rafforzando la coesione sociale. L'anno scorso la Commissione europea ha varato un patto per il clima. Il patto costituisce un'opportunità per riunire i governi nazionali, le comunità locali, la società civile, la scuola, le imprese, i singoli cittadini, fare in modo di condividere informazioni, creare spazi per esprimere idee innovative a livello sia collettivo che individuale, sviluppare anche la capacità di facilitare le iniziative di base in materia di cambiamenti climatici. Il Parlamento europeo è uno strenuo promotore del lavoro del patto dei sindaci e la vostra opera e le iniziative adottate a livello locale con risultati concreti garantiranno che l'Unione Europea e i suoi Stati membri rispettino i loro impegni internazionali e gli obiettivi dell'accordo di Parigi. Le iniziative locali con un approccio dal basso verso l'alto sono fondamentali. Sarà necessario mobilitare cospicui investimenti pubblici, privati, trasversalmente a tutte le politiche per aiutare concretamente le comunità più interessate dalla decarbonizzazione e dobbiamo soprattutto incoraggiare nel contempo progetti e iniziative proattivi. Le città europee hanno un ruolo importante da svolgere anche nell'accelerare il passaggio a una mobilità sostenibile, a una mobilità intelligente. Il Parlamento europeo ha sollecitato un piano più vasto di mobilità urbana al fine di ridurre il traffico e migliorare la vivibilità delle città. Le città europee, con la loro esperienza pratica e le loro competenze, dovrebbero essere coinvolte molto di più nella discussione sull'attuazione delle future politiche in materia di mobilità a livello di Unione Europea. L'Unione Europea deve continuare naturalmente ad agire da leader nell'azione per il clima. Ci siamo dati questo obiettivo all'inizio della legislatura, via via abbiamo precisato meglio gli step su cui dobbiamo far convergere tutte le nostre azioni. E oggi siamo in una posizione molto particolare perché le nostre ambizioni non devono essere messe in discussione, ma dobbiamo raggiungere gli obiettivi che ci siamo prefissi. Anche in questo contesto il ruolo delle città sarà essenziale per, se vogliamo, che nel 2050 l'Europa sia il primo continente a emissione zero. E questo lo possiamo fare non soltanto con politiche verticistiche, ma con l'aiuto di tutti. Il Covid ci dà una lezione importante, ci dice che l'Unione Europea non sono solo le istituzioni di Bruxelles, non è solo il Parlamento Europeo, la Commissione, il Consiglio Europeo, ma che l'Unione Europea sono i suoi territori, le città, le regioni, i parlamenti nazionali, i governi nazionali. Questa è l'Unione Europea e credo che in questo momento dobbiamo fare in modo che tutti gli sforzi per uscire dalla crisi e per dare una prospettiva all'Unione Europea debbano vedere tutti i soggetti interessati lavorare insieme. Prendiamoci per mano, perché questo è il momento per poterlo fare. Grazie.
Grazie mille, Mr. President. Thank you so much for taking the time this morning and underlining the commitment of the European Parliament. Now, as we said earlier, you can follow along online with a lot of great tools at our disposal. You can, of course, select the language, as you saw in that last session. Just click the globe icon and select French, Italian, Spanish, or English. We will also be having thematic networking sessions later on from 11:30 until 1 o'clock, and you'll be able to access that just after the plenary. And this will allow you to engage and debate around all the issues we're going to talk about, so the European Climate Pact, adaptation to climate change, and how the European Commission is supporting local governments, as well as the Fit for 55 policy and the climate neutral cities mission. So a lot to talk about there. And of course, the new covenant ambition for this year, with the aim of getting climate neutral by 2050. We do, of course, still want to hear from you over the next couple of hours as well. So we want to know your thoughts and your comments, what is inspiring you, what you can't wait to do in your city. So please use the tools there. You can engage also on social media. Use the hashtag #MayorsForNeutrality, that's the number 4, and also EU Climate Pact. You'll see those up on your screen during the event. We'll remind you from time to time. Also, I should let you know this event is being recorded, so if you missed something because you were busy typing your own thoughts, you can go back and listen after the event. We're also accompanied by a visual note taker who will be drawing up in a very artistic way the details of our discussions and our main messages. These serve as a great reminder to what we've been discussing, as well as being very shareable with your colleagues on social media. Now, to kick off this discussion, I did mention we've seen from the European Parliament there. We also, of course, have much on the way with stakeholders from the European Commission. And I want to show you now a dialogue that took place between Kadri Simpson, the European Commissioner for Energy, and the Mayor of Mechelen, Alexander van der Smissen, who sat down together especially for this event. So let's take a look.
Commissioner, the European Union is aiming for climate neutrality by 2050. Why this ambitious goal for the transition?
And 2021 has been the warmest summer in Europe, and we saw extreme weather conditions. There were fires in some parts of Europe and record rainfalls leading to floods in other parts. And with the goal of climate neutrality, the EU aims to be a pioneer, but also to be an inspiration for other parts of the world to take the action. So we must also ensure that the transition is fair for everyone, that it supports the most vulnerable, and make sure that no one is left behind.
Mayor van der Smissen, your city, Mechelen, is very much engaged in the climate and the energy transition. Tell us about that. Why is that important to you?
Mechelen, the last 20 years, underwent a big change. Also on the climate change and the problems we face on that terrain, we decided also around 2000 to change our vision, our approach, and also to lead by example. So a lot of investments were made to mitigate, to adapt, but also to focus on the circular. And now last year we won the Green Leaf Award. That was very important for us because it was recognition for all the initiatives we took that were sometimes difficult, and it gave us more drive to be ambitious for the next 10, 20 years.
So what is the role of regions and cities in reaching these European goals?
And the new goals on renewable energy and energy efficiency and climate change mitigation intersects at the local level. So to succeed, support at all levels is a must-have. So national, regional, individual and corporate, and cooperation here is a key. And the cities, regions and municipalities are closest to our citizens, so for this reason local action is a critical element for success. And in fact, cities are the places where we see that innovation is taking place. And what is even more outstanding, many cities have already committed to climate neutrality, and well before 2050.
So what are mayors doing to collectively to create this climate neutral Europe by the middle of the century?
Implement change on a very local, very low level with very much impact. You can start in one house, one street, one community, and that has the most effect. So in the Covenant of Mayors, we see a lot of cities, mayors who try to take initiatives, who make important steps forward. That works. But I also think that Europe has a very important role to play. They have to pave the way, to keep paving the way. When local governments can go and serve on the European initiatives that will make us both stronger and give maximal effect.
Commissioner, it sounds like you have a good partner, a good partnership there with mayors across Europe on the Green Deal.
Well, of course, mayors and the representatives of regional and local authorities, they have proven to be the drivers of change. And Covenant of Mayors Europe initiative is an excellent example. And the signatories show tangible results in reducing greenhouse gas emissions and cutting final energy consumption, or also producing energy locally. And last year, the signatories asked for climate neutrality as a long-term target for the Covenant of Mayors. And in response, we have launched the Covenant of Mayors 2.0. And I would therefore like to encourage representatives of the cities and regions and municipalities to sign up the new covenant with updated targets.
Well, indeed, as you saw and heard there, a lot of ambition for the Covenant to be a great success. Now, I mentioned we wanted to get you, the audience, involved and to take the temperature of everybody watching. We're going to use a tool called Mentimeter. You can simply find it on the tab on the right of your screen. Just click Interactivity and you'll be able to find that question there. And I want, please tell us, what does the Covenant of Mayors represent to you? What's the one word or short phrase that you think of when you hear it? We will create a word cloud so we'll know what you're thinking. While you're doing that, I would like to take a look at the Covenant Ceremony satellite events that are happening all over Europe. As you may know, many of your peers are meeting in cities and in regions. They've been organising satellite events all over online and in person to renew their Covenant ambition towards climate neutrality and discuss their local challenges and how to overcome them. You can see, I think we have a map of some of these cities. You'll be able to see where they are meeting. There we go, absolutely. From right up in Turku down as far as Valencia in the south. Many people engaging and sharing thoughts and ideas and inspiring each other. So we do want to hear more about those. If you've attended one of those events, do let us know. And also keep organising them. There's no need to stop just because we're having the ceremony today. We still appreciate all the satellite events going on. Let's now have a look back. I hope you have voted. Let's see whether we've got many thoughts and ideas coming in on that Mentimeter. Absolutely there. Community right at the centre, at the heart of that. Commitment, hope, people there saying energy transition, of course, change, act, network, implementation, motivation, effort, partner. Please do keep putting those ideas in, because I think we're going to use these words. We're going to see over the course of this morning that a lot of them are going to change. We're going to get more and more ideas. We're going to get more and more words. And we're also going to see that community grow. But I still see that community is still the biggest word at the centre of all of that, along with commitment and ambition. Now, we're going to go into our section of our first of our blocks, and that is engage. Now, engagement speaks for itself. It's about how all the different stakeholders get around the table and commit to working together for a joint future and a joint aim of climate neutral by 2050. And we're going to talk about that with a panel of local leaders and European Climate Pact ambassadors. So I'm very pleased to have joining me online, we have Eric Piolle, Mayor of Grenoble, which is the winner of the 2021 European Green Capital Award. We also have Katrina Luhr, Deputy Mayor of Stockholm, member of the European Covenant Board and Climate Pact Ambassador, and Andras Huzar, co-founder of the Green Policy Centre and also the Climate Pact Ambassador for Hungary. Thank you very much. I'm delighted that you were able to join us. First of all, Eric, let me speak with you first. Now, Grenoble is the 2022 European Green Capital. Can you tell us a bit more about how you translate this idea of a local climate pact in Grenoble, and what added value was there from becoming the EU Green Capital? Eric, c'est à vous.
Tout d'abord, merci beaucoup pour cette convention des maires. Vous savez que c'est très important pour nous. Nous avons adhéré, Grenoble, à la convention des maires en 2008. Nous venons de renouveler notre adhésion là lors du conseil municipal de septembre 2021. Et cette démarche ancienne qui est vraiment aussi portée au niveau européen, notamment avec le label Signatories Gold. Et donc, maintenant, ce titre de capitale verte européenne, ces valeurs qui nous ont conduits à vouloir candidater et qui nous ont permis d'obtenir ce titre sont vraiment cette volonté de courage politique pour avancer, traiter les questions de climat, d'air, de pollution, de santé, d'énergie, et de le faire en embarquant tout le monde. C'est ça qui était notre objectif premier. Et ce titre de capitale verte européenne permet d'abord d'amener de la reconnaissance sur ce qui a été fait jusqu'à présent. Nous avons baissé nos émissions de gaz à effet de serre de 20% depuis 2005. Nous avons pour objectif de les baisser de 65% en 2030 par rapport à 2005. Donc, c'est un point d'étape important. Nous produirons l'année prochaine suffisamment d'électricité pour couvrir les besoins des Grenobloises et des Grenoblois d'une électricité 100% verte, c'est-à-dire ni fossile ni nucléaire. Et ce projet Capitale Verte nous permet d'être les ambassadeurs de l'Europe pour ces transitions, donc de pouvoir accueillir des gens de partout, et j'invite ici tous les auditeurs à venir, de pouvoir aussi évidemment échanger avec eux, profiter de la richesse de leurs réflexions. Donc nous nous enrichissons en tant qu'ambassadeurs. Et puis, ça nous permet de nous projeter dans cet horizon de 2030 avec l'ensemble des acteurs du territoire, qu'ils soient institutionnels ou du monde académique. Nous avons créé un conseil scientifique de la transition avec 37 chercheurs, des chercheurs et chercheuses grenoblois. Nous embarquons les jeunes. Et nous mettons tout cela sous une dimension culturelle très forte, la participation habitante, la participation des jeunes et la culture, parce que c'est en redonnant du sens à nos actions quotidiennes que nous arriverons à relever ce défi très clair, à la fois du climat, de la biodiversité et aussi de la santé, et notamment de la pollution de l'air, puisque vous le savez, l'OMS a remonté ou a baissé plutôt les seuils parce que la connaissance scientifique continue de progresser. Et si à Grenoble, la pollution a baissé de 30% en 10 ans, notre objectif est bien de donner de l'espérance de vie en bonne santé à nos habitantes et nos habitants en continuant à prendre des mesures adaptées. Donc voilà un peu notre état d'esprit. En agissant à la fois sur l'urbanisme, à la fois en réfléchissant maintenant aux matériaux de construction qui sont aussi très importants, d'où ils viennent, quelle qualité. On a dépassé la logique juste des aménagements urbains qui est le fruit de notre réflexion. Nous avions à Grenoble le premier écoquartier de France en 2008. Donc, cette question des matériaux de construction maintenant est importante. La question de la déminéralisation, comment enlever du bitume de nos villes, retrouver de la porosité avec les nappes phréatiques, avec le sol directement, les questions d'énergie et puis évidemment les questions d'alimentation, parce que l'alimentation permet de reconnecter le territoire, l'alimentation et l'agriculture, de développer le bio et le local, de baisser notre consommation de viande et que la viande que nous consommons encore soit une viande qui vienne d'élevage extensif. Donc, tout ça permet d'avoir une politique qui est cohérente, qui donne du sens pour l'action quotidienne. Et donc, je vous invite vraiment à venir en 2022 à Grenoble pour cette année Capitale Verte Européenne. Nous vous accueillerons très bien et nous serons heureux que vous partagiez aussi tout ce que vous faites chez vous et qui nous donneront l'envie d'en faire encore plus.
Thank you very much, Eric, and absolutely right, bringing together so many different things from food and terroir to questions of energy. It's a really complex issue, but thank you so much. Katrina, let me turn to you now. I know in Stockholm you've had a climate pact locally for several years, but working particularly with local businesses. Can you tell me how that is helping you to achieve your goals?
Yes, of course. In the city of Stockholm, we started a local climate pact in 2007 already. And this pact is based on a network between the city, businesses and organizations aiming to gather forces and exchange ideas to reduce greenhouse gases and other negative environmental impacts in the city. And this climate pact started with 10 members in 2007, and today the climate pact includes 350 different companies from the entire Stockholm region. On top of this initiative, I initiated the Climate Pact Plus network in 2016. And this Climate Pact Plus network includes frontrunners with particularly high climate ambitions. To become a member of Climate Pact Plus, the company or organization must meet a set of requirements. They must, for example, share the cities of Stockholm's vision of becoming a fossil fuel-free organization by 2030. And they also have to sign up for 15 different actions from a selection of Stockholm's goal for sustainability. The Climate Pact gives a good opportunity for every company to network with the city and other businesses and to promote their own sustainability work at the same time as they can get information about the political directions and goals for climate and sustainability in the city. In the Climate Pact, there are different things you can attend to. We organize guided tours about climate change and climate action in Stockholm that you can attend with your company. We broadcast breakfast meetings with different themes and invited guests. Some examples that we recently had are climate smart eating and sustainable use of plastics. And this year, the City of Stockholm and a group of Climate Pact members are working on a project we call the Climate Pact Delivers, within the City Business Climate Alliance, a joint initiative from C40 Cities and the Carbon Disclosure Project and the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. And this project, the Climate Pact Delivers, aims to demonstrate how actions by the City of Stockholm and the Climate Pact members can reduce the climate impact of deliveries and logistics. In this project, each participant commits to implement and evaluate the solution and to communicate the solution to everyone else. The City of Stockholm's Climate Pact is a good example of how we collaborate with local actors to reach the city's goal to become climate positive by 2040. But I hope that our local Climate Pact and Climate Pact Plus network can also be used as an inspiration for other cities to set up similar initiatives and contribute to the European Climate Pact from the ground. It will take a lot of hard work and collaboration on all levels to tackle the climate crisis. However, most of the greenhouse gases are emitted in cities, which is why it's necessary that real action happens on the ground. Our local Climate Pact is a good example here, but of course, climate action should take many forms and have to include everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Katrina. You're absolutely right. It's all so interconnected, and one of the key messages we want to get across in this block is the need for engagement. Now, Andras, you, like Katrina, are also a Climate Pact ambassador, and your organization is working with businesses to help put actions in place. So can you give me a few concrete examples?
Thank you very much, Jennifer. As we all know, combating climate change is a long and hard process. The solution will not come overnight. It requires commitment and perseverance. And this requires people to help with this process who can explain what is happening, why it is happening, and why it is important. With years of professional experience behind me, I felt I had to take on the task of telling people in an accessible, understandable way why we should and why it's worth the fight. The motto of the Green Policy Center I lead is that 2050 climate neutrality begins today. This means that in the extent of their responsibilities, everyone must begin the change today, without which we cannot achieve our goals. Obviously, this means different tasks at individual and community, international and national, or public and private level, but everyone has a responsibility. Now, the private sector usually asks the public sector to have rules and guidelines that are predictable in the long run. Well, now we have them. The Hungarian climate neutrality goal, for instance, for 2050 is also in law, just like in the EU. Absolutely clear business plans and strategies can be developed, all of which must embrace achieving net zero operation by 2050 at the latest. It must be made clear that there can be no activity in the post-2050 world that does not serve climate neutrality and a sustainable future. And the private sector must plan accordingly already today, and we are trying to help with that. But this convenient tool, I mean planning, is no longer in our hands for so long. If we want to maintain control, we need to put processes in the right direction for the next decade, and this planning will also catalyze more sustainable functioning of the society. The national response is basically the sum of local responses. The action of local communities is crucial to achieving the goals. They can change global, regional, or national ideas into coins. But on the other hand, the more people know about the problem and the importance of taking action against, the closer it is. I feel this is the key to it all, to make people interested in tackling climate change so that they can experience its positive effects on their own skin. And this is where we are trying to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Andras. I like that phrase. The national action is the sum of local actions. That's a nice way of looking at it. But I want to ask you all, because we do have people listening from the European Commission and, of course, the Parliament and the other EU institutions. What is your one big ask? If you had to ask one demand, one piece of help that would help you overcome the challenges and obstacles you face from the EU, what would it be? Andras, let me start with you.
Thank you once again. Well, I think one of the biggest challenges I perceive is that people either don't know enough about the problem and how to solve it, or if they know about it, they don't see best practices examples. For depression and anxiety resulting from the imminent danger of climate change, which affects more and more people, unfortunately, the best solution is to take active action, I believe. I really believe in the fertilizing power of local good practices. Much more projects or initiatives should be presented that are already working somewhere and will be relatively easy to transfer somewhere else. Of course, this can be interpreted not only at the local, but also at the regional level. Now, one of the main tasks of the Climate Pact ambassadors could be to spread the word about these good examples. To do this, there must be an easily accessible and spectacular collection of these best practices across Europe at contact points for those who are willing to pass on the experience and are accessible anyway. Here at the Green Policy Center, for instance, we are doing our part. We have started a radio program about Hungarian best practices, and we are planning it to continue. I therefore propose to the Commission, for instance, to widen the scope or upgrade the already existing collection of live program best practices into a constantly updated EU website to collect and regularly update real best practices across the EU. These can be searched through filters by sector, region, implementing institution, etc. Thus, decision makers, but also ordinary people, could easily be inspired by each other's examples, and a good idea could easily spread across the continent. Climate Pact ambassadors could be local hubs in this. They can propose local best practices into this database, but they could also be responsible to talk about the already existing ones. Let's make the fight against climate change everybody's everyday business. Thank you.
Thank you, Andras. Katarina, your thoughts, and I mean, briefly, we had a good solid idea there from Andras. What would you like to see from the EU?
Well, as cities, we have great experience with implementing EU rules and creating local innovation ecosystems, getting citizens and businesses on board, and experimenting with new ways of doing things. But we also have very concrete challenges, bottlenecks and gaps in regulation and in funding to take into account. When it comes to reducing our emissions in Stockholm, we have identified the transport sector emissions as one of the hardest to cut. To stay within our carbon budget, finding ways to reduce emissions from the sector will continue to be a priority. Given that the issue is highly affected by both national and EU legislation, this can only be achieved if multiple governance levels work together. On our side, we have set the goal to have an emission-free inner city already by 2030. To get there, the electrification of the vehicle fleet is a key priority, and we have, among other actions, taken the decision to install 4,000 charging spots in Stockholm until 2022. Together with key players from the business community, we have also initiated an electrification pact. Similar to our climate pact, we are pooling our resources and sharing our expertise with each other in the pact. And this will make it possible to speed up the expansion of the city's charging infrastructure, and by doing so, stimulate the use of electric vehicles. Now, looking at the EU level, I would like to underline the need for European Commission to continue mobilizing resources for technical assistance and capacity building in the cities to tackle the emissions from transport, as well as other climate issues. The commissions should make sure to support the local level to get access to financing, implement EU action plans, and increase cities' opportunities to exchange, replicate, and upscale their methods. That's very important for us.
Thank you, Katarina. And finally, Eric, what's your one brief ask from the European Commission?
D'abord, nous réitérons le fait que nous avons besoin de l'Union européenne, et on le voit bien particulièrement en France, évidemment, sur les questions de pollution de l'air, où c'est bien les directives européennes qui permettent aux villes de pouvoir commencer à avoir les moyens d'agir. Donc, je crois que cet enjeu d'avoir une Union européenne exigeante, cohérente est très forte. Le ciblage des plans d'investissement vers l'accompagnement aussi des collectivités, notamment pour la réhabilitation des bâtiments publics, me semblerait un coup de pouce significatif qui irait vraiment dans le sens de cette transformation de notre mix énergétique. Et puis peut-être, si je peux me permettre, une proposition plus à l'échelle européenne. Nous voyons que dans différents pays, nous allons avoir des contraintes très particulières liées à des secteurs d'activité économique qui vont devoir migrer. Et peut-être que là, mais c'est vraiment dans le champ politique général, avoir une sorte d'assurance de transition, une sorte d'assurance chômage de ces secteurs d'activité que nous ne voulons plus voir à un horizon de 10 ans, 20 ans, à l'échelle européenne, permettrait de créer de la solidarité en disant, ben voilà, nous avons besoin d'arrêter là des mines de charbon, ici d'autres activités polluantes. Et c'est à l'échelle européenne que cette solidarité se fait en proposant un filet de solidarité qui permettent la transition. Et ça me semblerait extrêmement fédérateur à l'échelle européenne.
Merci, Eric. Now, I think we had a sneak preview during your intervention, but as I promised, someone very senior from the European Commission is listening, and I'm delighted. Joining us is the Executive Vice President of the Commission, Frans Timmermans. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. You've heard those appeals from 3 mayors. I mean, we will have more throughout the morning. What's your initial reaction?
I had to unmute, sorry. My initial reaction is we need the cities. If we want to get where we need to be, which is climate neutrality in 2050, reducing our greenhouse gas emissions with at least 55%, 8 years from now. You know, it's an incredible task. We need the cities. And what I heard this morning clearly points to the fact that the cities are where the creativity is, where the solutions can be found. You know, this is what I find so inspiring. I think 3/4, I think now, of Europeans live in cities. That's where the innovation, the inspiration, the action related to climate and energy come together. And I believe that some things are invented in different cities across the European Union, independent from each other. And I would agree with those of you who said that we need to bring that knowledge together and make it accessible to everyone. And then, of course, it's also clear, and this is what we've seen in the work of the Covenant of Mayors, which I think is now the largest movement of municipalities globally, with 11,000 cities participating, that for bigger cities, it's often easier than for smaller cities to get all the knowledge you need and all the things together to make this transition happen. So that is why I want to launch today a new policy support facility which is a technical assistance support instrument, which could help smaller and medium-sized cities through the Covenant of Mayors to get all the information they need to be able to develop and implement adaptation strategies and plans. You know that if you look at the proposals we've launched under Fit for 55, it is such a transformational agenda. I was in the Environment Council yesterday, and I said to the ministers around the table, I don't think Europe or the world has ever been faced with a bigger transformational challenge in a very, very short period of time, which will need incredible amounts of finance, but which will need incredible amounts of political investment, especially amounts of investment to engage with our citizens. And of course, the cities is where that happens first. So what we want to do with the new covenant is to engage, to help cities engage with their citizens, their businesses, local stakeholders, to shape together with them the transition. Because if we don't do it with them, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. They have to be part of that. And I listened very carefully when our climate ambassador from Hungary said so clearly that, you know, people very often first of all, they don't know what can be done, and if they then find out what can be done, they don't know how they can contribute to that. So I would like to say to Andras Huszár, let's work together so that people know what can be done, because so much can be done. This will have to be done by all of us, and then give them the tools to show that they can themselves contribute to this. Every single citizen can contribute to this transformation, and we will with the missions, the European missions we're launching, we can contribute to that. I want to invite you to join the mission on 100 climate neutral and smart cities by 2030. This will put cities and citizens in the cities in the driver's seat, and also our mission on adaptation, I think, is of relevance to your work. There are two areas where we have particular challenges, and this is where the cities can really help. Two areas where emissions are still going up, or where energy consumption reductions are not going down. That is in transport and in housing. And obviously this is core to any city. Now, most cities have plans to decarbonize their public transport, to introduce more cycling lanes, to green the cities, etc. And I believe this is something that sometimes is very, very complicated, especially reducing the energy consumption of housing, refurbishing, refitting housing, especially in historic cities. That comes with a lot of complications, but the benefits are huge, and things come together. Less combustion engines in the city is less heat, less pollution. More green in the cities is more clean air, is more well-being, lower temperatures. So everything fits together, and that is, I have to say, my friends, the core of the approach the Commission has chosen. If we want this transformation to happen, everything needs to be done. No sector can be excluded. And we have to be able to show successes, showcase our successes, so that others don't become discouraged or despair. And my biggest fear today is not climate denial. People know we are in a climate crisis. My biggest fear today is climate despair, that people don't believe we can save the world anymore, we can save humanity anymore, and just live it out and not be too bothered. Why invest all that effort if it doesn't help anyway? Well, cities can demonstrate as of today that it works. You're showing that you can decarbonize your public transport. You're showing that you can green your cities. With COVID, we've seen bike lanes everywhere. With the invention of electric bikes, cycling has become accessible to everyone, all ages. And this is revolutionizing life in cities. And by showcasing that, and I want to be your advocate also in that, you can also reach other areas, more rural areas, where people perhaps today are not convinced that this can happen, or cities and countries where people are not convinced that this can happen. Let's showcase it together. This can be done. And you are the trailblazers. You can show to the rest of Europe and the rest of the world that this is something that is accessible. And then people will become more optimistic. They want to be part of that. They see it as good for their kids and their grandkids. So that, I think, is the role I would like to see. And I want to end on something again, a bit on what Andras also said. People need to understand what the challenge is. And sometimes we tend to talk about the cost of this transition, and we tend to completely forget what the cost is of non-transition, the cost in the loss of human life, the cost in, you know, we have 400,000 people in Europe dying prematurely every year because of bad air quality. Just imagine the apart from the human factor, the economic importance of keeping these people longer alive and in better health. So the cost of doing nothing, the cost of letting the temperature shoot through the 2-degree limit is immensely bigger than the cost of the transition. And then you are paying that money and you're ending up in a society where our children will be waging wars over water and food. That's the reality. But it doesn't need to be like that. And cities will demonstrate that it doesn't need to be like that. And I want to be your partner in this. And I can assure you that the Covenant of Mayors is one of the best examples worldwide that can show to people how this transition can work and how everybody can be part of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Just one brief follow-up question, if I may. You alluded there to the pandemic and perhaps the impetus it gave to cycling and so on. Do you see any other ways in which may be a catalyst for a changing world? For example, we use our cities differently now. You mentioned housing, but all buildings, including office buildings, are a drain on energy as well. So can you give us a hint as to why now is the time to maybe leverage what we've learned over the last 18 months?
Well, first of all, we've discovered our vulnerability. I think that is the main thing. You know, if you think the pandemic is serious, the pandemic is a drizzle compared to the tornado that would be the climate crisis. So I think we've learned our vulnerability. I'm not sure we drew always the right conclusion of that, because if I look at Brussels traffic in the morning, it seems to be almost back at pre-COVID levels. So we still have a long way to go, but at the same time, Brussels has changed. More biking lanes, more understanding of keeping cars out of certain parts of the city, long-term plans of making sure that at some point, first diesel engines and then later on combustion engines will no longer be allowed in the city. We are getting rid of almost half of our office spaces, European Commission, also by working more remotely and working differently. This has a huge impact on both the carbon footprint, but also on the opportunity for a city as Brussels to then use that space for citizens to live in, for creating more, perhaps even urban agriculture. Other things can then be done. So I would see this as a tremendous opportunity. Let's learn from the good things of COVID, and let's understand and act on our sense of vulnerability that we have now. To make sure that we increase our health, that we increase our resilience, and that we create livable cities that live within planetary boundaries as an example to the rest of the world.
Thank you indeed. Let's have car-free Sunday every week in Brussels. Thank you very much, Vice President, for joining us, and of course to our mayors there for putting their thoughts to you and for getting such a rapid response. We really do appreciate it. I'm going to take the temperature now of our audience and ask a very straightforward yes or no question. Do you think your municipality could better cooperate with citizens? Simple yes or no question. You can find that on the interactivity tab on the right of your screen. Please do use that to share your responses. Also, don't forget, we are in the engage block of our event, and we do want you to engage online as well via social media. Use the Mayors for Neutrality and tag @EU Mayors when you're sharing on social media. We will absolutely be delighted to see your thoughts and share them with our speakers today. Let's have a look and maybe go back and see how you voted in that poll. Let's have a look. How are people voting? Oh, we're going to have a look. Actually, sorry, thank you. This is our visual representation of what's been said over the first block. As you can see, this is our engage block. That's crucial to have everyone on board. Youth scientists is something we've been suggesting. People need to act locally. The bank of best practices, a really concrete example we heard today. We also heard then as well from Stockholm about tackling the transport sector. And we've also got there, we need to talk about climate in an accessible and understandable way. Thank you very much to our visual artist there for representing that discussion. We'll go now to have a look at the results of that poll. So that was a very striking yes. Do you think your municipality could cooperate better with citizens? Most of you said absolutely they could. Well, of course, the Covenant of Mayors is able to assist in that. So that's the good news. The Climate Pact can also help you do that as well. And we're going to hear more about that in our next session coming up now. So this is the commitment block of our morning's discussions, and it's about this journey towards a climate neutral and fair cities throughout the Covenant. And we're going to talk about the commitment showed by those 10,000 plus signatories to the Covenant. We're going to see a tremendous change in all aspects of the public and private sphere, so it's not going to happen without severe commitment. With that, I would like to introduce our panel. We have some excellent speakers here representing different mayors all around Europe. We have Anna-Kaisa Ikonen, the mayor of Tampere. Dario Nardella is the mayor of Florence. Tanja Hristova is the mayor of Gabrovo. And Dzieniak Hrib is mayor of Prague. Thank you very, very much for joining me. Anna-Kaisa, let me start with you. Tampere has set an incredibly ambitious goal of becoming climate neutral by 2030. A huge, huge ask, and very, very soon it's coming up. How are you going to do it? What is so unique that you're going to be able to do this?
Thank you very much for the opportunity to participate today, and greetings from the city of Tampere. And to answer your question, Jennifer, we have to be ambitious, all of us. Nothing less is expected of us, and quite frankly, nothing less is enough at this stage. Actually, I was just reading the largest Finnish daily newspaper, Helsingin Sanomat, which has on its website a calculator which states clearly that without current level of emissions, we will attain the 1.5 degree Celsius rise in temperature in 8 years and 85 days. As you mentioned, Tampere aims to be climate neutral by 2030. This requires political will and leadership. I strongly believe that the city has to lead the way. Therefore, climate neutrality is the cornerstone of our renewed city strategy, which will be adopted next month. Now, what does it mean to be climate neutral by 2030? Concretely, it means that we aim to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 80% compared to 1990 level, and the remaining 20% we try to compensate. In order to achieve this, we have set in place a carbon neutral Tampere roadmap 2030, which includes 236 concrete actions aimed at reducing emissions from urban planning, housing, mobility, energy, and consumption. We have also included a climate budget in our usual financial planning cycle to make climate work transparent and to plan ahead to have the necessary resources available. Just to give you a quick example, we have just finished building our first light rail line and started the construction of a second one. We have also renewed the public transport routes accordingly, and we are piloting a new short distance train connections to allow the citizens of our growing city and the whole city region to move around more sustainably. In addition to leadership, we also need cooperation. The city works in close collaboration with local businesses, associations, and residents alike. And we have jointly agreed on measures and launched projects to implement them. Naturally, we also need to work together with our European and global partners. This is what this is all about right now. And hence, we joined the Covenant of Mayors already in 2009. and we fully support the renewed objectives to achieve the Paris Agreement commitments of keeping the global temperature rise below 1.5 degrees Celsius. In fact, the city officially signed the renewed Covenant of Mayors 2 weeks ago. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Now, I want to come to you, Tanya, next. I know that Gabrovo has won this prestigious Green Leaf Award in 2021 because of its commitment to energy efficiency and these new clean technologies that we hear so much about. So can you tell me a bit more about the projects that you've been working on?
Yes, Gabrovo is really committed to develop as green, smart, inclusive and innovative city. As a member of the Covenant of Mayors since 2013, we have been working systematically to tackle climate change issues and to transform challenges into opportunities and good practices. Gabrovo shares the vision for 2050, which aims to achieve living in decarbonized and resilient cities with access to affordable, secure and sustainable energy. Actually, we joined the renewed ambitions in June this year. Being awarded as a European Green Leaf City, we are strongly committed to work even harder in order to involve our citizens, our businesses, and all stakeholders in the green transition process. And now I would like to share with you some of our success projects, most of which are going on. With our plan for mitigation and adaptation to climate change, we have set ambitious goals. We plan to achieve further 40 green gas reduction by 2030. In my city, together with the online system of Eco Energy, the methodology of the European Energy Awards will be tested in practice in order to maximize the implementation of our CCAP plans. With the support of the cohesion policy here in Gabrovo, we managed to introduce energy efficiency measures to all our educational institutions, and we are the city where the first public passive house building was built and certified. Currently, we are going on the next step, introducing building intelligence systems in our schools and kindergartens in order to upgrade the energy performance. We were successful in retrofitting 37 multifamily residential buildings, which is a good step towards a more sustainable housing policy implementation. With the support of EU City Facility Project, we will receive technical assistance support in order to transform one of our industrial zones into carbon neutral. Currently, we are implementing a number of projects for introducing energy efficiency measures in many of our cultural institutions and infrastructure. Being aware of the importance to provide adequate information to our citizens and businesses, we are in the process of establishing one-stop shop. We are committed also to transform our urban mobility, and we recently finalized the first phase of this big project, part of which was to purchase 14 ecological buses, which will allow us to reduce the green gas emissions with many tons. Presently, we are in the final phase of one very important project related to modernize our street lighting. This will happen, and this is really happening via energy performance contract. And among the multitude of benefits that we can see already, it is expected to make 1,400 tons of CO2 reductions. Ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude now by stressing that neither of these success stories could not happen without the active involvement of our citizens and the commitment of the local authorities. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Tanya. Zdeněk, let me turn to you now, and I know that Prague was one of the first cities to declare a climate emergency back in 2019, and you've also been working together with other cities in the Visegrad areas and countries. Can you tell me what your long-term aims and goals are for Prague?
Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation, and I highly appreciate the work of the Covenant of Mayors, and I feel privileged that I could become a Czech ambassador for the second chamber of the Covenant this year. In Prague, we focus on sustainability, smart solutions, data-driven city, transparency, and human rights. And Prague is also a big promoter of the green recovery after COVID. And we believe that cities like ours can lead by example and can prove that this approach is feasible and beneficial. In 2019, Prague adopted the Climate Pledge to reduce CO2 emissions by at least 45% by 2030 compared to 2010, and to reach carbon neutrality by 2050. And this year, we had adopted a comprehensive climate plan for Prague, which is a strategic policy material with 69 specific measures which will help to fulfill the climate pledge. And the main pillars of the climate plan are energy sustainability for the buildings, sustainable transport, greenery in the city, and circular economy. So we are walking towards becoming more self-sufficient in energy production by boosting hydro, bio, and solar energy. So last month, we established the Society for Sustainable Energy, a municipal organization which will organize installation of photovoltaics on buildings in Prague. And the plan is to include up to 20,000 buildings before 2030. Firstly, municipal, like schools or elderly homes, and then also private buildings. And we also focus on sustainable mobility and have been gradually upgrading our public transport fleet, focusing on electric rail transport, suburban railways, battery-powered buses and trolleybuses. And we are also working on green solutions for cargo logistics in the city, and we have built a new cargo bike depots near the city center. I would like to mention just one more initiative in the end. In 2018, we announced our pledge to plant 1 million of trees for Prague in 8 years. And we have managed to plant more than 370,000 trees so far. So we are on the right track to reach this target. And we are also organizing public planting events and tree adoptions for the citizens. So these are effective participatory tools because it is crucial to translate the climate agenda into tangible and easy to grasp topics and invite citizens into the debate. Otherwise, it won't happen.
Thank you. Now, the EU as a whole is committed to this climate neutrality by 2050, but through the European Commission's suggestions and its guidelines. Now, I know you've all got your different agendas, your different targets and your different priorities, but I'd like to know overall from each of you, what do you need in terms of policies from your national government? Are you getting the support you want? What more is needed to help you as mayors achieve that? Let's go back in the reverse order. Janek, let me go to you first.
Well, I already outlined our commitment and specific plan to reach the climate neutrality by 2050, but unfortunately, the current national government is quite far from supporting our climate policy. On the contrary, the government is even using ambitious climate goals to scare people. Just a few days ago, the Hungarian and Czech prime ministers agreed on the necessity to fight three battles: battle against LGBT+, battle against migration, and battle against green EU policies. And this is very, very alarming. In 2019, together with other mayors of the V4 capitals, we founded the Pact of Free Cities, and we agreed to defend freedom and democracy and stand up against anti-liberal tendencies, inequalities, populism, climate change denial, or xenophobia, which unfortunately loom over Central Europe. So we strongly support the European Green Deal and also promote the link between human rights and the climate change, because the right for a safe, clean and sustainable environment is a basic human right. And moreover, climate change impacts other human rights. And last month in Budapest, 19 cities from Europe and beyond joined the Pact of Free Cities. So it's great to see that there is a lot of other cities who joined the Pact of Free Cities. So we are growing bigger and stronger, and many other cities are ready to actively defend these values. And the EU can play a strong role by seizing the opportunity of the post-COVID recovery and allocate more funding directly to cities and regions and support our climate neutrality ambitions.
Well, it certainly sounds you've got quite a challenge ahead of you in dealing with that. It's a bit of a shock to hear that illiberal values are going hand in hand with anti-green policies. But that's a very unique situation. Let me turn to you, Tanya. What is the situation like in your country? Are you getting the support you need, and what more policies do you need?
I'll start by saying something that should every day be a subject for public debate and dialogue, and it is that the climate neutrality goal is a unique opportunity to invest in a better social and economic future, and is really essential for the next generation prosperity. In this regard, local and regional authorities are essential actors because, as it is very often said, this is where the change happens. Therefore, cities are crucial for implementing the green transformation on the ground. In this ambitious initiative, however, the local authorities should insist to have a holistic role rather than just to be considered as mere implementers. In my country, Bulgaria, the energy efficiency is really identified as a national priority, but the support programs that are existing are still very highly centralized and do not allow us the implementation of independent local energy efficiency policies. Therefore, I think that we have to continue insisting on a political debate in order to allow for more decentralization in the implementation of sustainable energy efficiency policies. In this process, I think that Recovery and Resilience Fund and the European Structural and Investment Funds could be really instrumental. These financial instruments offer a unique chance to invest in green projects, and they are a way to overcome the negative effects of the COVID-19 crisis. The national governments, I think, should have to do their best in order to exploit the leverage potential of the public resources and to incentivize the market, as the private initiative should be the main driving force if we are to succeed in the real resilience and sustainable recovery.
Tanya, thank you very much. It's interesting to hear the different perspectives. And I think, again, Anna Kaisha, you're going to give us yet a third different view.
Thank you. Yes, whereas Tampere aims to be carbon neutral by 2030, the country of Finland aims to be climate neutral by 2035, so that is 5 years later. But we are very pleased to see that there are several policies and support measures, both at national but also at European level, to support cities and societies at large to achieve climate neutrality. And the sooner, the better. However, as has already been highlighted here today, the need for change is massive. And in order not to leave anybody behind, we need to make sure that the transition is done in the most just and most inclusive way possible. This naturally means that we need to have the resources necessary to take the big leap towards climate neutral societies. Public and private investment, joint investment is the key. Directing financing to sustainable projects is a good way to boost the right kind of development. As we all know, the longer we wait, the greater the costs will be. Tampere is committed and we want to lead. However, we also acknowledge that we can do better, a lot better still, even though we are ambitious already now. And that requires long-term planning, strong partnerships and cooperation. We recognize that the time to act is right now. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you very much to all of our speakers there. Prague, Garbovo and Tampere, 3 unique places, all very different with their own characteristics, and yet all committed to achieving the same goal, with, of course, their own obstacles and challenges to overcome as well. And we certainly hope that the Covenant of Mayors is instrumental in helping you overcome these challenges. So thank you very much for being really interesting and a very key part of our commit block, which I think has come across really strongly from all 3 of you, that this is something that we must act on now. And our next block is going to be ACT, but before we come on to that, let me talk to our audience again, and please do click on the interactivity tab on the right-hand side of your screen to answer this poll. How do you feel about the climate neutrality ambition in your city? So you've got 3 options there. Still a lot of work to do. We're on the right path. It's going to be hard, but we can do it. I don't think any of those are mutually exclusive, but we would like to know which one resonates most with you when you ask yourself about your own city where you live or work and what your thoughts are. While you're voting, we're looking here at our visual representation of the last discussion. As you can see there, it is commit, and we're moving that around. Yeah, absolutely, some great thoughts there. So we will level up emissions. We will reach 1.5 degree rise in 8 years and 85 days if we stay on the current task, the current path. And that's rather alarming. It's a thermometer there showing quite how much worry we have to put on this. Climate budget for transparency, a little piggy bank, because some of these changes are going to cost money, and of course they need the commitment from everyone at all levels of government, from the EU to national governments, but of course it's the mayors who often get down to the actual nitty-gritty of implementing it. We've got the picture there of the Tampere road map for 2030. We also have an idea for sustainable projects, direct financing, and to the cities, something that's needed there as well. And it says here, the pact of the cities is we fight for clean, safe and a sustainable environment as a human right, drawing the link there with human rights and the right to breathe nice clean air and live in a climate neutral environment. Thank you very much to our artistic visualization for that engaging image of what the discussion was about. Please do share these on social media, as we want you to really get the message out there to your colleagues and peers. We're looking now at the results of that poll. How do you feel about the climate neutrality ambition in your city? And it's fairly clear that there is still a lot of work to do. 56% of you voted for that. Only 25%, it's going to be hard, but we can do it. And 18% so far saying we're on the right path. So clearly still a bit more communication to be done, a bit more work to be done. No one said it was going to be easy. But I think that there's a clear recognition that even if the work is hard, it still has to be done. So thank you all for voting on that. We are leaving the poll open there. You can still vote for the next few minutes. We're now going to move on to the next block of our event this morning, and that is stepping into the right direction by taking action. So action is the next block coming up in just a moment. Welcome to our next session. And this session, we're going to look at the successes of many of you that have been involved in the Covenant of Mayors. I also want to remind you that we are engaging on social media. So please use the hashtag Mayors4Neutrality, number 4 neutrality, or hashtag EU Climate Pact. We're also wanting you to tag us, tag the EU mayors on Twitter or on LinkedIn or on social media, whichever your preferred version is. And I want to remind you again that today's event is being recorded. So if you missed any of our speakers earlier, you can, of course, watch that back in just. We're going to go on our next step of our journey. we're going to go on the road to Glasgow. Now, that is the COP, of course, the UN COP that is so much at the center of our hopes and aspirations for a green planet. It's involving everyone. It's not just Europe, but of course, Europe has a very key role to play in this. So that next conference is coming up in a very short space of time. And I would like to introduce Minna Aave, the mayor of Turku in Finland as well, who is going to let us know what sort of message she will be bringing to them at the conference. So Minna, I can see you're joining us there. Thank you very much indeed. Tell us about what message you're going to bring, what your aims are, and what you're hoping will emerge from Glasgow.
All right. Hello, everyone. Dear friends. Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer. So let's go on. Thank you for the invitation to contribute this very important ceremony. I'm very, very happy and proud to be here today. The climate emergency is the biggest global challenge with local, subnational, national, continental, and planetary dimensions that the likes of which the world has yet to face. Governments, institutions, leaders, and communities must prepare, mobilize, and act in a manner that has not been experienced during any previous crisis in the history of humanity. Tackling a challenge as widespread and multidimensional as this requires radical change of personal, institutional, and societal mindsets. Welcoming the climate neutrality target of the European Union, we are now more than ever committed to a climate and energy transition. European cities and signatories of the Covenant of Mayors, Mayors Europe, are already acting and stepping up their climate ambition to reach a common vision. By 2050, we want our communities to live in decarbonized and resilient cities with access to affordable, secure, and sustainable energy. Cities and local governments are eager to lead a just and inclusive transition, while at the same time working together with businesses and citizens to change the way production and consumption systems operate. And this is also the approach we are taking here in Turku. Turku has an objective to become a carbon neutral city by 2029 and climate positive from then onwards. The whole community, including the new generations, is called to contribute to make this objective reality. We have recently launched the 1.5 degree life campaign to promote lifestyle shifts among Turku residents and are working on creating ideal conditions for a circular economy through the upcoming Circular Turku roadmap. These efforts not only contribute to a more holistic approach to climate action, but they also support reskilling and job creation to create opportunities for all, and would not have been possible without close collaboration with regional and national partners. And this is the message we will take to Glasgow on behalf of the EU Covenant Community of Leaders for Change. European mayors are leading partners for this sustainable change. We are ready. We are already acting together for a fairer, climate neutral Europe. Cities and regions are uniquely positioned for the implementation of critically needed local climate action. However, no city, town, or region is, nor can be expected to be, capable of tackling the climate emergency on their own. So we must act together across national, regional, and local levels to develop and implement effective climate action plans. We join the local governments and municipal authority constituency and encourage all parties to ensure COP26 in Glasgow embraces multi-level collaboration as the new normal in the second phase of the Paris Agreement. We must ensure that multi-level governance becomes mainstream rather than a best practice. Local and national plans need to be aligned to accelerate action and to provide comprehensive cross-sectoral solutions for the green recovery. The vital role of cities and local governments needs to be recognized, and their daily action to tackle climate change in their communities should be supported by clear mandates, stable regulatory frameworks, and sufficient resources. Only this way we will be able to turn our collective ambition to see our communities become climate neutral by 2050 into reality. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mia, very much. We heard there from Mina, who is going to be going to the COP26 taking place in just over 3 weeks' time. So we wish you all the best for that, and we wish you a great deal of success. Mina Arve, the Mayor of Turku, thank you very much. As you saw there now, we are into the ACT part of our event this morning. So we're going to hear the Covenant City in the Spotlight Awards, and I'm going to give the floor now to Paola Pino, who is the Director for Just Transition, Consumers, Energy Efficiency and Innovation in the European Commission's DG for Energy. Thank you very much, Paola. The floor is yours.
Thank you, and what a pleasure to address you all. I wish we could have a physical gathering where we can all meet. Welcome to this new edition of the Covenant City in the Spotlight Awards. And really, I'd like to thank you on behalf of the Commission for being connected with us this morning. Last year, as you know, we had to cancel our Covenant ceremony due to the pandemic, but I'm very pleased that we are back today, despite the fact that we're doing it a virtual event. And I'm very confident that soon we will be meeting each other in person again. And some of you in your respective countries are, as we speak, already together, which should really be the best way to meet, as we really owe the spirit of community to the success of the Covenant of Mayors. And we hope it can continue to generate this rich and very uplifting exchanges between like-minded cities. We know very well, and you know very well, because you are on the spot, that implementing the energy transition towards climate neutrality, improving our resilience against climate risks, ensuring a fair transition that really leaves no one behind. These are not issues that one can solve alone. So it's really also the strength of coming together that helps in pursuing this. And today I will be announcing this year's winners of the coveted Covenant City in the Spotlight Awards. As most of you already know, this award is our way to reward those Covenant cities that made the most outstanding progress in the past few years. And before I announce the winners, let me say that we received many very good applications this year from municipalities of all sizes and from all across Europe, which is really also a key strength of the Covenant. It is open to every European municipality, no matter where from, no matter how big or small. So let me not prolong the suspense any longer. Based on the applications we received, we have selected 2 winners, one large and one medium-sized city. And both impressed us by the level of ambition of their local energy and climate policies, the quality of their action plan and reports, and the concrete results that they had to show. So first, I would like to congratulate the city of Murcia in Spain, as our winner in the category of large cities. Congratulations, Murcia. Murcia has set ambitious goals for 2020 and has achieved them. Now, the city is looking at 2050 and at climate neutrality with an action plan developed through a participatory approach with the population. Murcia is investing massively in local renewable energy production using an innovative mix of EU, national, and private funds to finance local solar PVs and hydropower installations. Murcia also shows the way by addressing climate change and biodiversity issues together with a series of adaptation actions and building a more resilient city, which is fit for the climate change challenges of tomorrow. And we've been seeing so many of these climate challenges already today. Murcia has mainstreamed climate resilience in its public health planning with very specific actions to assist vulnerable people during extreme climate events. So well done, Murcia. Second, I'm happy to announce the city, the winner among our medium-sized cities, and that is the city of Padova, Italy. Padova has one of the Covenant's most impressive records in terms of reduction of emissions in the past few years. The city has reached its ambitious 2020 target and is now setting its trajectory to 2030 and 2050. Padua is an example of how you can work together on energy and climate at local level with what it calls collaboration pacts signed with companies or universities. The city has contributed to the installation of greenery and solar panels on rooftops, on buildings that are not owned by the municipality, and is defining sustainable mobility plans for its inhabitants. Padua is also leading the way on home renovations, which, as we all know, is a key way to reduce emissions and at the same time inequalities by ensuring that most vulnerable citizens can effectively reduce their consumption and therefore their energy bill. Again, so important also in the days as we see energy prices going up. The Resilience Office of the City of Padua is in charge of preparing the city for the climate challenges of tomorrow and develop a funding strategy to implement actions in that respect. Now that you are familiar with our winners, it is time to hear from them. I wish I could hand away the prize as in a normal award ceremony, but virtually is indeed more difficult, even if it's just a symbolic. It's not a financial prize, but it's really the recognition of all these efforts. So first, let us turn to Murcia, our winner, and I'm very pleased to give the floor to Mayor José Antonio Sejano Martínez. Congratulations, the floor is yours.
Buenos días, me siento muy honrado, muchas gracias. Como alcalde quiero en primer lugar mostrar mi absoluta satisfacción por este reconocimiento tan estimulante, tan motivador para seguir trabajando. Antes de continuar, me gustaría agradecer a la Comisión Europea su trabajo y esfuerzo y al equipo de la Oficina del Pacto de las Alcaldías por su enorme dedicación. Felicitar también a todos los participantes en estos premios y compartir con todos nuestra gran alegría. Murcia es una ciudad pionera en la lucha contra el cambio climático. Fue la primera ciudad española en adherirse al Pacto de los Alcaldes en el 2008, mediante la implementación de su Plan de Acción de Energía Sostenible y Clima 2020. Redujo en un 24% las emisiones, superando el objetivo de emisiones europeo a disminuirlas en un 20% para el 2020. Murcia Reconociendo los desafíos climáticos a los que nos enfrentamos, especialmente por nuestra posición geográfica, somos conocedores de la urgencia de fortalecer nuestra resiliencia. Contamos ya con un plan de adaptación climática y un plan de mitigación que no solo evalúa el riesgo climático, sino que también evalúa la capacidad de adaptación y los peligros climáticos de los diferentes sectores hasta el año 2064. Uno de los principales puntos fuertes del Plan de Adaptación de Murcia es su innovadora metodología del análisis del riesgo climático, que permite al Ayuntamiento priorizar diferentes sectores cada 15 años en función de proyecciones climáticas. Esta metodología es una adaptación de una de las herramientas reconocidas por el Convenio Marco de Naciones Unidas sobre el Cambio Climático. Todo ello suma para alcanzar el objetivo de neutralidad climática para el 2050. Uno de los principales objetivos de Murcia es desarrollar además algo que me conmueve personalmente como médico: la capacidad de prevención y reacción de la ciudadanía a los riesgos de la salud asociados al cambio climático. Estamos ante una situación crítica. Hemos perdido demasiado tiempo y estamos empezando a tener dudas sobre cuál es el margen real que tenemos para evitar la aparición de los efectos más peligrosos del cambio climático. No obstante, tenemos espacio para actuar, pero no podemos sentirnos satisfechos ni tranquilos. Ha habido un progreso significativo desde el Acuerdo de París y ahora la clave está en la rápida integración de respuestas. Igualmente tenemos que demandar apoyo de las instituciones europeas. Y qué mejor escenario que este para que nos den respaldo, ya que el problema es global, pero la batalla es local. Es un paso más que quiero hoy comunicar que Murcia se unirá también a la Alianza de los Alcaldes por el Clima. Nuestra posición geográfica hace que seamos un municipio especialmente vulnerable a los desafíos que provoca, por ejemplo, en los periodos de sequía, el aumento de la temperatura media y las migraciones climáticas. En nuestro ayuntamiento trabajamos también hasta el autoconsumo energético. Queremos una sociedad que avanza con paso firme y decidido, pero invirtiendo en una transición financiera sostenible, que avance de forma gradual y firme para no dejar a nadie atrás. El futuro de Europa, de España y con ello de Murcia está en juego. Y Europa del futuro o es sostenible o no será. Desde ya quedan todos ustedes invitados a venir a conocer las bondades de Murcia y poder disfrutar de la cálida acogida de sus gentes. Una vez más, gracias y mis felicitaciones también a las personas que han contribuido a este reconocimiento. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. Muchas gracias, señor Serrano Martínez. And well done. And please do keep up the great work and share the practice with other cities. Now let's go to Padova with Deputy Mayor Chiara Galani. Ms. Galani, congratulations to you as well, and very happy to hear your reaction.
Okay, thank you. Buongiorno a tutti. Il Comune di Padova ha inserito da lungo tempo nella propria agenda politica il tema della mitigazione e dell'adattamento della città ai cambiamenti climatici. È un percorso ventennale iniziato nel 1999 con l'approvazione del primo piano energetico comunale ed è culminato quest'anno, lo scorso giugno, con l'approvazione del piano d'azione per l'energia sostenibile e il clima. L'adesione all'iniziativa del Patto dei Sindaci è stata un'occasione colta dall'amministrazione fin dall'inizio per dare visibilità alle proprie azioni, per scambiare buone pratiche e per condividere le nuove sfide, quelle che stiamo mettendo in campo con le città virtuose di tutta Europa. L'adozione del nuovo piano d'azione per l'energia sostenibile e il clima poggia le sue basi sui significativi risultati che abbiamo ottenuto con il precedente piano, il piano d'azione per l'energia sostenibile, e rispetto agli obiettivi iniziali di ridurre del 20% le emissioni climalteranti della città, quindi in linea con quanto previsto dall'iniziativa del Patto dei Sindaci, il territorio è stato in grado di quasi raddoppiare il target già nel 2017 al 37,5%. Ed è un risultato, ci teniamo a sottolinearlo, condiviso tra pubblico e privato. È quindi con orgoglio e con grande soddisfazione che ritiro oggi questo premio, che ci gratifica del lavoro che abbiamo svolto fino a qui e ci incentiva a proseguire in questa direzione. E, vista la natura strategica del piano, abbiamo voluto raggiungere i nuovi obiettivi del Patto dei Sindaci e costruito una visione per Padova al 2050, coinvolgendo gli stakeholders del territorio, capitalizzando la loro esperienza e il loro impegno su questi temi, perché il piano è del territorio e per il territorio. I comuni non possono raggiungere gli obiettivi che si prefiggono senza un reale coinvolgimento di cittadini, imprese, associazioni. L'obiettivo è sfidante. Raggiungere la neutralità climatica entro il 2050 significa trasformare completamente il modo di produrre beni e di offrire servizi, significa cambiare radicalmente le scelte di consumo, vivere in case più efficienti in grado di produrre l'energia di cui hanno bisogno attraverso fonti rinnovabili, muoversi con veicoli a basso impatto ambientale o con sistemi di mobilità intelligenti e condivisi. Ed è in questo senso ovviamente che come amministrazione stiamo lavorando. Di sicuro abbiamo potuto raggiungere questo obiettivo coinvolgendo altri enti del territorio in un progetto europeo che ci ha permesso di trovare risorse a destinare a queste attività, e si tratta del progetto LIFE Veneto Adapt, di cui siamo i capofila come Comune di Padova. Un ringraziamento particolare finale va a tutta la macchina comunale che ha reso possibile la candidatura a questo premio. Tutti i settori infatti sono stati attivamente coinvolti, ciascuno per le proprie competenze, sotto l'abile e direi determinato coordinamento del settore ambiente e territorio del comune. Chiaramente la vera sfida inizia adesso con il nuovo piano, perché questo nuovo piano non è un libro dei sogni, è un documento che deve trovare concretezza attraverso misure ordinarie e straordinarie ed essere monitorato. Quindi attuarlo è l'impegno di questa amministrazione e delle prossime amministrazioni. E per questo vi ringrazio per questo importante riconoscimento che mi prendo l'impegno di trasmettere a tutta la città. Grazie.
Grazie tanto, signora Galani. And once again, let me congratulate our two winners, Murcia and Padova, and thank all the municipalities that applied for their exemplary work on the energy transition and climate action. It does pay off, and it's we have wonderful projects and examples by many cities. I now let you with the rest of this morning's program. Thank you for being with us, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Paola, very much for that awards, and indeed my congratulations as well. Very well done to those two cities. We're delighted on your behalf. We're coming now to the ACT part of our session, and we're going to be talking to the Committee of the Regions and asking the question, what will the future look like? We are coming towards the end of today's event. In a few moments, we will be hearing from the President of the Committee of the Regions and the Governor of the Central Macedonia region in Greece. But let me tell you a little bit about what's going to happen once this section of the event closes. Because after we have finished here today, we are going to have a networking opportunity for you all that you can join throughout the next couple of hours. There's also a virtual booth that you can attend. You can see the virtual exhibition. This has been online for a couple of days, so you maybe have already had the chance to visit it. And of course, it will remain online until 5 o'clock today, so do go and have a look at it. What you will see there, you will find booths on climate mitigation and adaptation, urban initiatives on smart cities, the new LIFE programme and others. So please do check it out if you haven't already had the chance, because there's a lot of options there for you to engage. We're also going to see that we will have the networking opportunities. You can set up one-on-one meetings with your colleagues and other attendees, share your thoughts on the discussions we've had today, maybe discuss what you've heard in terms of concrete ideas, and get together to support each other, learn best practices. You can schedule those in one-on-one meetings, request a chat with a fellow participant at any point throughout this afternoon. We think this is a really great way to try and replicate what we once had in our main big conference in the European Parliament, when we were able to get together in person more frequently. So we hope that even though this event is online and is a virtual conference this year, that you will be able to enjoy it and still benefit from some of those networking opportunities. There's also going to be side sessions as well. Now, these are specially organised sessions. You can find those there. Click on that little calendar icon on the left-hand side of your screen, and you'll be able to choose. There's several sessions. There's 4. There's Fit for 55, of course, the European Commission's Pact that we heard Executive Vice President Frans Timmermans mentioning earlier. We also then have the Polity Support Facility on Adaptation. That's another section. You can go there and talk about that. We also have the European Climate Pact, which of course goes without saying is central to any efforts to move into a climate neutral future. And we also have how to renew your commitment to the covenant, something that today's event has been all about, because we've seen these great commitments. We've seen engagement, we've seen commitment, we've seen the need to act, and that's of course this last section on how to network. So you can join those networking sessions by clicking on the tab, and we'll be waiting for you in there. You'll be able to take to the floor and share your thoughts with other participants. Last but not least, in terms of networking with the wider world, we do want you to use the hashtag Mayors for Neutrality and EU Climate Pact, because these are, of course, the way we want to spread the word, not just to stakeholders like mayors and those at local government, those who are already engaged, but also to people who maybe don't know about the covenant, and it's something that we can share with everyone. Now, I mentioned we have here to close the event. We are very grateful to Apostolos Titsikostas, who is the from the European Committee of the Regions. He is the President and also Governor of Central Macedonian region in Greece. Thank you very much for joining us. We're delighted to see you. I'm sorry I can't be in person, but please, sir, over to you to hear your closing thoughts on what I think has been a very inspiring set of conversations that we've had this morning.
Thank you very much, Mayor Arve, local leaders, ladies and gentlemen. The Covenant of Mayors is a movement of local leaders who understand the urgent need to act now against the climate emergency. 10,700 signatories from 53 countries, representing 325 million people. And these are not only numbers, these are real stories of local ambition, local investment, local projects. Our committee, the European Committee of the Regions, has always championed the Covenant of Mayors. And that is why we launched a chamber of national covenant ambassadors, one for each member state, to support the covenant in our home countries. Now, what does it matter to us and how? Because it falls to us to work with our local communities to cut emissions, to make our transport cleaner, our homes energy efficient, and to ensure that we reduce, reuse, and recycle our waste. We have heard of the incredible ambition by Mayor Arve and her city of Turku that aims to be carbon neutral by 2029. So under the leadership of the mayor of Gabrovo in Bulgarian, my friend Tania Christova, they are procuring supercapacitor electric buses as we speak. Or the mayor of Prague, Zdenek Hrib, he launched and adopted a tree plan as part of a commitment to plant 1 million trees. So, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm trying to say is that I see that local leaders are working with their emergency services, responding today to the many fires and the floods that tragically hit so many regions across Europe. And it is local leaders who are rebuilding in the aftermath of natural disasters. The UN has said that we now have 5 times the number of recorded weather disasters than we had in 1970. And they are 7 times more costly today. So it falls to local leaders to make our communities more resilient. Ladies and gentlemen, delivered right, the European Green Deal will support Europe's recovery and set it on a path of carbon neutrality. Europe's 1 million local and regional elected leaders must take center stage in the design and the implementation of the Green Deal if we want to make it a success. It needs investment. The EU's budget and recovery and resilience plans were unprecedented in ambition and proportion. Yet our committee's studies showed across Europe, national investment plans are being designed without cities and regions, unfortunately. This will make our recovery more painful and the green transition slower. And we need to be honest about that. Climate targets and funding are meaningless, dear ladies and gentlemen, without strong climate governance. So what we need today is a true partnership between every level of government, local, national, European. We must use the Conference on the Future of Europe to have an honest discussion about our union today. If we want it to be more inclusive and responsive to the needs of our people and our planet, we need a new governance model. We need local and regional governments to have a bigger say in EU laws that fall under our competencies. This is how we can enable our regions and cities to be the drivers of Europe's green economic recovery. And this is why our committee, the Committee of Regions, launched its Green Deal Going Local campaign, which set 10 actions to mobilize local and regional governments, from planting trees to holding local debates. This campaign is open to every local or regional leader in Europe. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, at a global level, together, we must make the case for true multi-level governance. We, regions and cities of Europe, deliver 70% of the climate change reduction measures and up to 90% of climate adaptation action. So the subnational level of government must finally be given a formal seat in the UN's climate talk negotiations. We are the ones, we are the actors who are going to make this Green Deal possible in every city, in every region, every village. So it seems absurd that our climate contributions are not taken on board. I call on the European Commission, ICLEI, and the Covenant of Mayors to work with our committee to develop a model so that locally and regionally determined contributions are measured, monitored, and formally taken into account in the UN climate talks. We know the climate emergency will be won or lost in our regions, in our cities, towns, and villages. I therefore call on Executive Vice President Timmermans as the EU's negotiator to ensure the regional and local dimension is included in the COP26 conclusions. And to every local leader, you are acting today to overcome the climate emergency. You are protecting biodiversity. You are sparking innovation, creating local jobs, driving Europe's green recovery. You are Europe's future. So it is time now for the EU to have the courage to change from within. It is time for a stronger, more democratic, greener, and inclusive Europe. A Europe that, at the end of the day, will be closer to its people and their real needs. A Europe that will work with, for, and in its cities, regions, and villages. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be with you here today. And I really hope that these ideas will be taken on board by the Commission. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We began this morning with hearing from the President of the European Parliament. We heard from the Commissioner as we went through, and finally a closing by the Committee of the Regions. I think highlighting how much the EU needs to get involved with mayors to help support them in the work that they are doing along with the lines of this new pledge, this renewed pledge of the Covenant of Mayors. So thank you very much, Apostolos, for that. That's it for our organised part of this session with these 4 blocks. We are now going to move into networking mode. The networking is all there on their platform. You can see it on your screen. Please do select the tabs to find out what you want to do. Those 4 side sessions will run from now until 1 o'clock, so please do make the most of them. And as I said, remember, today's event has been recorded, so you will be able to watch it back in future if you have forgotten anything. We will be sharing stuff online, so do keep following the hashtag Mayors for Neutrality to keep the conversation going. And with that, I thank you all for your attention and wish you happy networking and a great afternoon.